Sometimes, a small dispute can cross huge borders and start a whole new storm. Sometimes, tensions between two neighboring countries don't just stay within political boundaries, but open the door to a series of events that shake the entire world. What's happening right now between the United States and Canada is a striking example of this. Right now, tensions are boiling over energy trade between the two nations. The Trump administration's demands for Canadian energy resources and Canada's retaliation with potential energy cutbacks have ignited a major controversy. But one question is raising eyebrows across the globe: is Canada on its way to becoming the 51st state of the United States? At first, this might sound like a wild exaggeration. Canada is a proud nation with a strong identity, and the idea of it merging with the US seems absurd. However, if we follow the money, the resources, and the political power plays, the situation becomes much more intriguing. The hidden power struggle over energy. The United States has long relied on Canadian energy to keep its economy running. From oil and natural gas to hydroelectric power and even nuclear fuel, Canada's resources are deeply intertwined with the US market. Looking at North America's energy map, it's clear that Canada plays an irreplaceable role in fueling America's industries, homes, and businesses. But what happens when Canada shuts off the supply? Canada supplies the US with a significant portion of its crude oil imports. The oil sands in Alberta are some of the largest in the world, with pipelines like the Keystone XL project designed to deliver this energy directly to the United States. Natural gas is another vital sector. Billions of cubic meters flow daily from Canada to the US, used for heating, electricity generation, and industrial processes. If Canada were to cut the supply, America wouldn't be able to replace it immediately. The consequences: soaring energy prices, blackouts, and economic instability. Hydroelectric power is just as important. The northeastern US depends on Canadian hydroelectricity for clean, affordable energy. If this supply gets disrupted, electricity costs would skyrocket, and the US's climate change goals would take a major hit. And then there's nuclear power. Canada is one of the world's largest uranium producers, and many US nuclear plants depend on Canadian uranium to function. If Canada stops supplying, America's nuclear energy infrastructure could be in jeopardy. Trump's aggressive policies and Canada's response. Under Donald Trump's administration, the US imposed heavy tariffs on Canada, affecting industries like steel, aluminum, and agriculture. In response, Canada hinted at using energy as a bargaining chip, something that has never been done before on such a large scale. The rhetoric escalated quickly. Some US politicians joked that if Canada is supplying so much of America's energy, why not just make it the 51st state? Canadians, of course, laughed it off. But as tensions rise, the situation is turning into a high-stakes chess game. Could Canada actually cut off energy to the US? In theory, yes. But in reality, it's complicated. Canada's entire energy infrastructure is built around exports to the US. Cutting off supplies would mean billions in economic losses. But at the same time, Canada has alternatives. It could divert resources to China or Europe, but this would require massive investments in new pipelines, ports, and liquefied natural gas terminals. Could Canada afford to make this shift? Would it take years to complete? Or would political pressure force the US to back down first? The Canadian public's reaction. Canada is far from a monolith. Different provinces have different stakes in the game. In Alberta, where oil and gas fuel the local economy, people are frustrated. Trump's tariffs are reducing profits, but at the same time, the US remains Alberta's biggest customer. Cutting off exports would be economic suicide, yet people are angry about how the US is treating them. Meanwhile, in Quebec, many see US influence as a threat to their culture. Some even argue that Canada is already too economically dependent on the US and should seek greater independence. The truth: Canada and the US are so deeply connected that a trade war over energy could hurt both countries significantly. Who holds the winning hand? If Canada cuts energy exports, the US will experience higher fuel prices, electricity shortages, and a backlash from businesses. Members of Congress would likely pressure the White House to negotiate, and industries from agriculture to automotive would sound the alarm. The US economy might even enter a recession if energy costs spiral out of control. On the other hand, if Trump's policies continue, Canada might have no choice but to fight back. The longer this dispute drags on, the more likely it is that Canada will explore alternative energy markets and become less reliant on the US. The 51st state narrative, just a joke, or a warning sign? Every few years, the Canada as the 51st state debate pops up as political satire. But this time, it represents something deeper. A growing frustration with how closely tied Canada is to the US, and whether those ties are becoming a liability. For Canadians, this is a matter of national pride. Canada wants to protect its sovereignty and ensure that energy policy decisions are made on its own terms. For the US, the stakes are just as high. If it loses unrestricted access to Canadian energy, it will face an economic crisis, a political disaster, and possibly a national security threat. What happens next? Will Canada actually cut off energy to the US? Or will the US strike a new deal to avoid an energy crisis? One thing is clear, the world is watching. The decisions made in the next few months could reshape North American politics, the global energy market, and even US-Canada relations for decades. So, what do you think? Should Canada fight back and leverage its energy power? Or is diplomacy the best way forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into global energy politics, hit that like button, subscribe for more thought-provoking content, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.